So let me just now repeat that statement from the royal household, which we have received in the last few minutes. It reads, "The Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow." And so the reign of Elizabeth II comes to a close after 70 years at the age of 96. Her son Charles is now king.
Thousands of dawns have broken over Westminster, but very few have broken on a day quite like this. Here to witness it, hundreds of people willing to sit through the rainy night to pay their last respects to the Queen.
But I haven't had any sleep. The adrenaline kicks in, I think.
Patricia spent the whole night in the queue. She was saved from sleeping on the wet pavement by a local resident.
He was really kind, like our guardian angel, because it fell down with rain.
She's described you as a guardian angel.
Not at all. The guardian angel of the country is over there.
By mid-morning, those who braved the night were being joined by others, hoping not to queue for so long, from the elderly to the very young, each with their own reasons to come.
This is the only monarch I've known for the whole 10 years of my life.
Because this is history, so I just want to kind of just try and be a part of it.
People keep coming in their hundreds of thousands to honour two British traditions, the Queen and the queue.
I think for me, the most important thing about Queen Elizabeth II was the simple fact that she was a believer. You go back through Christian history and the history of the monarchy in this country, and a few of them have been a bit dodgy, shall we say. But this was a woman of such evident deep faith. And her Christmas messages bring that out. She knew her faith, she knew her Bible. She was a huge fan of the parable of the Good Samaritan, for instance. I think she leaves a huge legacy of faith. I think it's so important for the monarch not just to be someone who is a symbol of unity to our nation, but also, from my point of view particularly, it's good as well that they are a believing Christian, and that therefore is a symbol to other people of the importance of Christian faith in the life of the nation.
Here in Greater Manchester, as elsewhere, we are absorbing the enormity of yesterday's news. The period of national mourning and reflection that we go into is important for two reasons. First, as a mark of respect for a truly exceptional life, and of course for the royal family, but also as a moment of true reflection on what Her Majesty the Queen taught us, what she gave us. Because as we go forward from here, it will be important to understand that. In a world that is ever-changing and very volatile, she provided constancy and consistency for the British people. And those are qualities that we all need to learn to value more. She defined the national character in most of the last century and in this, what it is to be British. That mix of stoicism and a sense of humour, a great basis on which anybody can face the ups and downs of life, but also stern and serious, yet warm and generous at the same time. That's Queen Elizabeth II, as I remember her.
You're clearly very, very sad. Tell me how you're feeling right now at this news.
Just touched with the whole situation, you know. You don't think you will be, but she's been part of my life forever. And, you know, she's not here. She's gone. And, you know, you hope, but you appreciate that, you know, her age, it was expected at some point, but even when it happens, it's still a shock. And that's what I'm feeling now. Just got that feeling the way I feel.
Despite steady rain, thousands lined the A40 into central London from the west. On the other side of the road, they stopped, nose to tail, in the fast lane as the cortege came past. As they passed Marble Arch, the pavements on the western end of Oxford Street and down Park Lane were packed and silent. Rounding the Victoria Memorial in front of Buckingham Palace, the crowd was dotted with hundreds of tiny lights as people lit her way home with the torches on their phones. Her police motorcycle escort, their job done, stopped, heads bowed on either side. Inside the palace, her family were waiting to receive her. Children and grandchildren gathered for a last private evening before her coffin is taken in procession back into public view for the lying in state in Westminster Hall tomorrow afternoon.
Well, just 5 minutes ago, obviously, 5-10 minutes ago. We knew it was coming, obviously. But it's like when you lose a parent, you know it's coming, but it still upsets you.
Amazing lady. What she's done for this country.
The duty she started when she got the aeroplane, when she was, 23, 24? And her duty was to look after all the people for us, you know. And it just took me back when her husband died a couple of years ago, last year, and she was sat by herself.
Setting an example, but you need your family round you, don't you, to hug you.
Yes, yeah.
I think part of her great service that was unseen was that, as one former Prime Minister I heard saying at one point in a conversation, that there was only one person in the world that he could talk to and say exactly what he thought and felt, and was 100% certain that it would never go any further. And that was Her Majesty.
If I asked her for her view on an issue, she would give it carefully, but she would give it. And if I asked her about things that were to do with where the British people might be, or what she thought was the state of British opinion, you know, she had a very shrewd sense of where the centre of gravity was.
Oh, well, any Prime Minister who didn't listen to the Queen's views was a very foolish man or woman indeed, because she had an historic memory, longer than any civil service advisor. And she had a great understanding of how people lived, and was very interested in what government policy meant for the lives of people in different parts of the country. That was something about which she was concerned and about which she would ask questions. So you got a very clear idea from an intelligent, well-informed person about how some of the policies might be received and what their implications might be. And that, to politicians who can often be locked in the narrow world of Westminster, is easy. It's very easy to find yourself blocked off from opinion that once you would have been familiar with. And the Queen was one outlet where sometimes something was said that brought you back to realise exactly what something may mean. And I don't think there is a single Prime Minister who has worked with her who wouldn't say the same thing.
Visits by American presidents have been memorable landmarks in my reign. Unlike in the United States, the British head of state is not limited to 2 terms of 4 years. And I have welcomed no fewer than 7 of your predecessors.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong. But I shall not have strength to carry out this resolution alone unless you join in it with me, as I now invite you to do. I know that your support will be unfailingly given. God help me to make good my vow, and God bless all of you who are willing to share in it.
She was a very comfortable person to work with. There was no difficulty about it. There is formality because she was a monarch and you were the Prime Minister, and formality is inevitable and proper because politics is a divisive trade. But once you began discussions, it was very straightforward. It was very easy. The conversation flowed very quickly, very simply, very widely, and it was extremely useful.
Thank you very much. I'm still alive.
Nice to see you again.
We've been quite busy.
Yeah.
There's been quite a lot going on.
Yes, there's a lot of things happening at the moment.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Had been the repository over so many years with so many secrets. She knew how to keep a secret, but most important, she knew how to give the Prime Minister a sounding board and a person to listen to them and talk to them in a way that no other person could. I mean, I really did unburden myself on many occasions when things were really difficult, when you were taking either really difficult decisions or maybe you had a huge problem within your cabinet and you were talking about it with her, and I felt I could say anything to her.
The Queen was respected around the world. She had given a lifetime of service, and her devotion to duty was an example and inspiration for us all. And as Prime Minister, of course, I was fortunate enough to be able to meet her in different circumstances, including in the weekly audiences, but also at Balmoral, and saw a more relaxed Queen. I think we are all mourning the fact that somebody who was a constant in our lives has now passed away. And we must always remember that she wasn't just our Queen. She was a mother and a grandmother and a great-grandmother, and my thoughts and prayers are with the whole of the royal family.
Obviously, for the people of this city and this city region, those qualities were brought to this city by Her Majesty the Queen at important moments. In 1996, she was on the ground in this city within days when terrorism had struck at its heart. In 2017, again, more devastatingly this time, she visited the Royal Manchester Children's Hospital, a private visit, and speaking to the young victims, their families, the staff afterwards, it was hard to put into words, actually, the lift that her visit gave them.
My daughter's friend, we were away and my daughter's friend's mum, and she died. She was one of the ones that she died in advance.
Yeah.
So, and they're 12, she's got a couple of operations. It's just means such a lot that you've come today.
And what happened to you?
I had one of the wounds as well, shrapnel wounds, so it was nuts and bolts.
And then more positively, in 2002, when the city was holding the Commonwealth Games, it coincided with the Queen's Golden Jubilee, and that was a moment that will live long in the memory of this city and its people.
My goodness, I've been busy. Of course, our association is more than a partnership of governments. The real soul of the Commonwealth, the motor, the drive, call it what you will, is provided by people within and without those governments.
For most of her life, first as a princess, then as queen, Buckingham Palace was her London home. Today, with military precision, Britain's longest-serving monarch left the palace for the last time. The Queen's coffin, draped in the royal standard and with the imperial state crown on top, was taken slowly through the palace gates aboard a gun carriage. Behind walked the King, his sister and brothers, and behind them the Dukes of Cambridge and Sussex. 25 years ago, the two brothers had their childhood defined by the image of them walking behind their mother's coffin. Today, they honoured their grandmother in the same way.
She combined these qualities with warmth, humor, and an unerring ability always to see the best in people. I pay tribute to my mother's memory, and I honor her life of service. I know that her death brings great sadness to so many of you, and I share that sense of loss beyond measure with you all.
Queen Elizabeth rides in state to open the new session of Parliament. Not since Victoria's Day has a reigning queen presided at the ceremony, and a huge crowd turns out to hail the young sovereign. It is an occasion of great splendor and pageantry. Londoners cheer their gracious and vibrant queen, wearing a gold brocade dress and diamond and pearl tiara. The coach reaches the House of Lords, ringed by royal guards. The Parliament ceremony's over, Elizabeth leaves Westminster on the triumphal return journey to the acclaim of the vast throng. And then, to the crowd's delight, the children, Prince Charles and Princess Anne, join the Duke. The big show is stolen by a pair of royal youngsters.
This was a leader who truly led by example. And the best way we can honour her life is to understand how she worked, what that gave to the country, and commit to carry on in the same vein.
I think everybody throughout the country respects what the Queen has achieved. No monarch has lived longer. No monarch has had such a force of personality that is esteemed and respected across the whole world. And it's the whole world that is in mourning because she was a compassionate, dedicated, wonderful public servant, and nobody will ever forget the contribution she's made to our country and to our Constitution, and indeed her contribution to the world. She was a peacemaker. She brought people together. She listened to people. She never told you what her view was on any partisan issue. She wanted people to come together, and she did bring people together. And the great achievement of her reign as the longest serving monarch is the utter respect, the overwhelming respect that every leader in every part of the world I know felt for her and is mourning her this evening.
And there were other occasions when you were perhaps a guest of the Queen somewhere where you would see private actions of the Queen, staying at Balmoral if you got up early. And indeed, you often were woken up very early by a piper in the mornings. And you went out. You'd probably find the Queen in old shoes, old boots, Wellington boots if it was wet, a long raincoat, a headscarf, walking the dogs. And you see informal glimpses of the private life behind the public figure. The Queen, beyond doubt, is the best known woman in the world. Probably the most loved woman in the world, I would think as well. And then suddenly behind that enormous facade that exists because of her position, you see the private woman who lurks behind it. And that's rather a lovely thing to see.
As I saw Her Majesty in a whole variety of settings, and what I think came across was her great interest in people. She wanted people to feel at ease. She wanted her guests at Balmoral to relax, enjoy themselves. But even on official events, she wanted people to be at their ease. She had a great interest, a great warmth that came across. One of the last events that she attended in public was the official opening of Thames Hospice, which is in my constituency. And when she came in, there was just that wonderful sense from people of awe and respect. And when she spoke to people, you could see, their eyes lit up, and there was that great warmth that came across from her. And I think that was tremendous. She had a great sense of humour as well, but it was that interest in people. She devoted her life to serving the people of this country.
She was a place of confidences and of accumulated wisdom. I talked to her last in July, I think, at the beginning of July, late June. And we were talking about a particular individual. And she said, it rather reminds me of, and talked about a world leader she'd met in the 1960s. And it was a perfect comparison. There was that deep sense of wisdom which was given in service of the country. But there was also just the service of her time. Hundreds of events every year which she attended. And she was the one, and again, it runs in the family. I've seen His Majesty do the same thing, who could go into a room full of people or walk down a crowded street, and everyone she spoke to felt that they were the only person there. She was never looking over their shoulders to see, is there someone a bit more interesting to see? Everybody got her attention.
Well, it's a huge privilege as Prime Minister to have weekly audiences with the monarch, and I was hugely privileged to be able to have those conversations with the Queen. And it is a conversation, but it's a conversation with somebody who has immense experience. I think many people don't realise how much work the Queen actually did on a day-to-day basis, on her red boxes, on the papers she was seeing about issues around the world, government business. And of course, because she had been on the throne for so long, there were so many people that I was dealing with that she knew, she'd perhaps met them, or she knew about their history. She perhaps knew, in some cases, she will say, oh yes, I knew their father, and was able to talk about bring that experience that she had, that knowledge that she had. I have been asked by quite a few people in the past who I thought, when I was Prime Minister, who was the most impressive world leader that I met. And I always say, actually, the most impressive head of state was the Queen.
The Queen lived out the history that had accumulated in the office of monarch over 1,000 years. She lived in the present. So she lived in the present with her first Prime Minister, who had been in a cavalry charge. And she lived in the present with human beings landing on the moon. She lived in the present with the COVID. She lived in the present at every moment. You saw her face.
I speak to you today with feelings of profound sorrow. Throughout her life, Her Majesty the Queen, my beloved mother, was an inspiration, an example to me and to all my family. And we owe her the most heartfelt debt any family could owe to their mother, for her love, affection, guidance, understanding, and example. My life will, of course, change as I take up my new responsibilities. It will no longer be possible for me to give so much of my time and energies to the charities and issues for which I care so deeply. But I know this important work will go on in the trusted hands of others. This is also a time of change for my family. I count on the loving help of my darling wife, Camilla. In recognition of her own loyal public service since our marriage 17 years ago, she becomes my Queen Consort. I know she will bring to the demands of her new role the steadfast devotion to duty on which I have come to rely so much.
As this day draws to its close, I know that my abiding memory of it will be not only the solemnity and beauty of the ceremony, but the inspiration of your loyalty and affection. I thank you all from a full heart. God bless you all.
In a little over a week's time, we will come together as a nation, as a commonwealth, and indeed a global community, to lay my beloved mother to rest. In our sorrow, let us remember and draw strength from the light of her example.
For if a jubilee becomes a moment to define an age, then for me we must speak of change, its breadth and accelerating pace over these years. Change has become a constant. Managing it has become an expanding discipline. The way we embrace it defines our future.
But I shall not have strength to carry out this resolution alone, unless you join in it with me, as I now invite you to do. I know that your support will be unfailingly given. God help me to make good my vow, and God bless all of you who are willing to share in it.
Thank you for your love and devotion to our family and to the family of nations you have served so diligently all these years. May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. Queen Elizabeth was a life well lived, a promise with destiny kept, and she is mourned most deeply in her passing. That promise of lifelong service I renew to you all today. Alongside the personal grief that all my family are feeling, we also share with so many of you in the United Kingdom, in all the countries where the Queen was head of state, in the Commonwealth and across the world, a deep sense of gratitude for the more than 70 years in which my mother, as Queen, served the people of so many nations. In 1947, on her 21st birthday, she pledged in a broadcast from Cape Town to the Commonwealth to devote her life, whether it be short or long, to the service of her peoples. That was more than a promise. It was a profound personal commitment which defined her whole life. She made sacrifices for duty. Her dedication and devotion as sovereign never wavered, through times of change and progress, through times of joy and celebration, and through times of sadness and loss. In her life of service, we saw that abiding love of tradition, together with that fearless embrace of progress, which makes us great as nations. The affection, admiration, and respect she inspired became the hallmark of her reign. And as every member of my family can testify, she combined these qualities with warmth, humor, and an unerring ability always to see the best in people.
You can't look down to read the speech. You have to take the speech up. Because if you did, your neck would break, or it'd fall off. So there are some disadvantages to crowns, but otherwise, they're quite important things.
At this moment of my Silver Jubilee, I want to thank all those in Britain and the Commonwealth who, through their loyalty and friendship, have given me strength and encouragement during these last 25 years. My thanks go also to the many thousands who have sent me messages of congratulations on my Silver Jubilee, that and their good wishes for the future. My Lord Mayor, when I was 21, I pledged my life to the service of our people, and I asked for God's help to make good that vow. Although that vow was made in my salad days when I was green in judgment, I do not regret nor retract one word of it.
I pay tribute to my mother's memory, and I honor her life of service. I know that her death brings great sadness to so many of you, and I share that sense of loss beyond measure with you all. When the Queen came to the throne, Britain and the world were still coping with the privations and aftermath of the Second World War, and still living by the conventions of earlier times. In the course of the last 70 years, we have seen our society become one of many cultures and many faiths. The institutions of the state have changed in turn. But through all changes and challenges, our nation and the wider family of realms, of whose talents, traditions, and achievements I am so inexpressibly proud, have prospered and flourished. Our values have remained, and must remain, constant. As the Queen herself did with such unswerving devotion, I too now solemnly pledge myself, throughout the remaining time God grants me, to uphold the constitutional principles at the heart of our nation. And wherever you may live in the United Kingdom, or in the realms and territories across the world, and whatever may be your background or beliefs, I shall endeavor to serve you with loyalty, respect, and love, as I have throughout my life.